Appears preparing to go live
Oh,
stream.
okay, here we go.
Meeting is being live streamed. Whoop,
Okay,
whoop.
I'm going to stop this guy then. All right, in view, I want to view gallery.
Appears preparing to go live stream.
Here we go.
Meeting is, there we go. All right. All right, we are live. Can you hear me, Becca?
Yeah, baby.
All right, here we go. So I'm Amiee Elizabeth, shaman, astrologer, certified archetypal consultant, manual bodywork therapist, and firewalk instructor. And I am here with friend and colleague, Becca Honeycutt. Introduce yourself.
Woohoo! I'm Becca Honeycutt, shadow worker, energy healer, and trauma human.
Trauma human, that's a new one. Tell me more about that.
I deal with trauma. I've been through trauma. It's my wheelhouse. So I guess I should probably say like trauma healer or whatever, but I've been through it too. So I always just trauma human is what comes out of my mouth.
I think that's great. I think I was in a meeting with a colleague this morning. We were talking about that exact same thing, that so often the best people are those that have lived it. And forged their pathway through it, rather than people that are trying to come at it from an outside place.
Yeah, who haven't experienced it before.
Yeah, which
you
may lead us perfectly into the idea of ego death.
Yummy.
What we're chatting about today.
Yes.
Do you wanna kick us off on the ego death front?
Ego death front. Well, it's just, the reason that this came up for a topic for me is just because literally I've been going through a whole transformation, and I know the whole world is freaking out right now. I've heard the words, ego death, losing my mind, and dark night of the soul, over and over and over and over and over again these last few weeks. And so it's just oh my God. Yes. And I've been losing my own. So I literally feel like I'm watching my mind try to get things done, where it's I have to do this and then this will happen. I have to do this. And then my whole entire soul is going, could you just meditate? We need you to listen. And I'm that is so, and the antithesis of what my mind is asking for. But spirit's literally beating it in my head. I sat down on the bed and I was okay, let me pull a card. And I pulled meditate. And I was well, I didn't even shuffle the deck. Let me shuffle the deck and do it again, which basically means I don't like your answer. I'm going to pick and want another one, right? I'm totally not listening. And the next card I get is listen. And there's a picture of an angel whispering into a little person's ear. And I was just so I literally sat in bed and meditated for 3 hours. Spirit's you'll get out when we let you out. Just go in. And I'm okay. And I don't sit there and be all and I have to be quiet. I cannot stand that shit. So I literally nature has been my heart center right now. So I just opened my window, stared at the plants right outside my window, and watched myself want to run like a bitch. And literally it was I let the spirit part that I was feeling of myself that goes, everything's going to be okay, it's all fine, and I feel it, literally be the container that held space for my mind to just go and try to get its way and not do anything for 3 hours. And then all this creative force came through right after that led me to do what my mind was trying to do before from a force place.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by losing my mind is I feel we're literally being called to lose it because it's a virus right now that's what I've been getting told is the mind is the virus. The mind is the virus, not the brain, but the mind is the virus. It's a lie. It's bullshit.
That's fabulous. I do want to let those of you who have joined us via live stream know you can drop questions in the chat, interact with us. We love hearing from you. We will totally divert if you have questions because we have the energy and space for that. So yeah, back to the losing the mind. I think right now, what I'm feeling and seeing astrologically is we're in this 88-day period that started on the 23rd, the first full 24-hour period was the 23rd of January. And it's an 88-day period where all of the planets are moving direct. So there is there's this planetary push
Mm-hmm.
as we move toward the final Taurus Scorpio eclipses, which happen in April and May. But that first Taurus Scorpio eclipse is a cross sign eclipse. So we open up eclipse season with the sun and the moon in Libra and Aries, conjunct the nodes, which are in Taurus and Scorpio.
Snap.
And then we finish it off with the final Taurus Scorpio, but we don't really finish it off because it's almost like there's this 6-month period of overlap where even though the nodes are changing signs, we're not quite done with the how are you using your resources. Our minds are a part of our resources. And Scorpio, so there's the Taurus piece, is how are we using our resources, headed towards that north node. Well, the Scorpio piece is what do you need to let go of so you can move in that direction. So just really tracking those pieces for me is a big thing right now. And this 88-day, it can feel like a push unless we're willing and able to take a nap, meditate.
Yes. Oh my God, that so rings true. For me, I literally, every time I try to do something in spirit, it's like, I need you to just go chill. I need you to go take a walk. I need you to lay on the couch. And I'm like, what? I got to get shit done. I got to pay my rent this month. No. And it's so funny. I love that. And can you say more? Because I love that you gave us the questions about like the Taurus and the other part that I've already forgotten. It's so hard for me to track the planets, but I can totally track the feeling vibes of what you talk about. When you're talking about the nodes and how they interact with that, what are the nodes doing in reaction to those two questions that are on offer right now from the other two planets?
So the North Node has been in Taurus since January of 2022.
Okay.
And that North Node is, my favorite way I've ever heard it described was by a colleague who said it's like a flag that says, hey, if you come this way, and the North Node is something we're not familiar with. We're not familiar with recognizing the value of our resources, of recognizing, well, how much of that resource do we legitimately need to be okay? And understanding that everybody's nervous system, of course, needs a different amount, but does anybody need billions of that resource? Or is there a more reasonable amount of that resource?
So you're talking external resources?
Huh?
Are you talking
external resources? Taurus is an earth sign, so it's very plugged into our Plutonian capitalistic world.
Got it. Thank you.
Pluto finishing up his time in Capricorn. And the truth is everybody is busy flapping their hands in the astrological world and running around that Pluto's about to enter Aquarius, but he's entering Aquarius for 3 months. It's like a movie preview, people. The movie isn't coming out until 2024.
I love that.
So Pluto entering Aquarius is a 3-minute movie trailer for the next 20 years. But that movie doesn't come out. It's not put in theaters until 2024.
Okay.
We get to really feel into this Pluto and Aquarius. And one of the things I know I'm seeing is this really fascinating thing that's going on in corporations, because Pluto in Capricorn is top-down authority. That, hey, we're up here and we're going to tell you what your power is, where you're going to be, how things are going to work.
Yep.
And I've seen it happen in a number of big companies, from nonprofits to the medical industry to the financial industry and other places, where there's almost like witch hunts going on, and big layoff that happens. And then, of course, the employees and the worker bees don't feel safe because their stability, their Tauran stability has been shaken.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the Capricornian, this is shadow Capricorn leaders, Pluto and Capricorn leaders are saying, well, we're just going to be transparent. We're going to be transparent. We're going to be transparent, but we're going to go in this closed room and make decisions and not really listen to you. And if any of you speak up or move in a way that we perceive threatens our control,
Yes.
we're going to fire your asses.
Yep. So let's try it out too.
And it's such an interesting dance because these Pluto in Capricorn authorities are using the language.
Yep.
They're saying we're going to be transparent, but they don't understand what transparency actually is.
No,
And they're trying really hard to get everybody rowing in the same direction. They're trying through Pluto in Aquarius shadow, which is hive mind. Everybody has to think like we do.
Yep.
Yep. The queen bee. Let's look at a hive. The queen bee is the only thinker here. And everybody there is just there to serve the queen bee. But what that does is it stifles innovation. And really, that's what Pluto and Aquarius is calling us to do, is to innovate, to go toward the places we feel tabooed or shut off towards. Any place we feel like a no taboo towards, that's a place to get curious. And it's really, really hard to be transparent when you're busy inserting things. But what it's doing is it's shaking up people's relationship with their resources and asking us to really evaluate, what are my resources? What do I have that can't be taken from me?
Yeah.
What are my personal resources? And it's not falling into that shadow of hyper independence.
Right.
It's falling into the, what are my resources and how do I bring this to the whole?
Yes.
For belonging.
Yeah.
We've confused conformity or hive mind. We all have to row in the same direction with belonging. And belonging allows us a difference of opinion and to still feel safe, to still know that we have a community, that you and I don't need to look at things the exact same way.
No.
And we can respect each other's experiences and each other's differences. And we still belong to each other.
Yeah.
We are still a community.
Yep.
And so it's those pieces, like Taurus, this North Node in Taurus is asking us to get right with our resources and how we use our resources, and to recognize that community, belonging, real community, belonging community is a resource that allows us to resource ourselves so we can bring our best selves forward.
Dude, I love all this. Like 100%. I love that we have two different languages around this, but they're like saying the same thing, because it's like the way your stuff sheds so much light on what I'm feeling and then gives me new words to talk about it as well is amazing. Like this thought about resources and authority, the losing your mind and ego death makes sense to me now, because what I've been feeling now that you've given me the words resources is that we're being like, from what I feel with spirit, they're like, physical resources are bullshit. Spiritual resources are your gold. Go toward the light, Carol Ann. That's why it feels like we're being ripped apart, because it's like people don't know how to hear that, but we're feeling it. Like it's one of those unseen realms, unconscious things that is happening because you are a soul in a human body on this planet. You can't escape it. But I think this is why so many people are having dark nights of the souls, because they're like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, because it's happening in the unseen realms of you, and you're being asked to resource in the unseen realms of you. But if you don't know how to access that and detach from the place of my resources are outside of me, then you're not going to know. And then when you're starting to talk about the authority shit, it's the same thing. In my world, we're being asked to stop listening to any authority outside of myself. If my resource is plugged into an authority that is outside of myself, calling me to be in compliance and row my boat in a certain direction, but my soul is calling me to like jump the boat and pick apples and shine like a diamond. I have to fucking do it. There's a conflict now in me that's calling me to a higher level of soul that something in me has to answer. And even if I can't name it, I'm aware that I'm betraying myself, but not by not answering it. And I don't know how to answer it. So now I'm stuck with the death of my ego around the resource and authority coming outside of myself, because really that's what's dying. And my mind that's attached to that idea that it's going to save me is also dying.
Yeah.
Like total destruction.
No, and it's beautiful. It's something, I run a women's circle and I'm prepping for a retreat. So I've got my retreat group and I've got my women's circle, and we are actively prepping and treating this as the end of the year. Astrologically and shamanically, the year does not start on January 1st. The year starts in the spring when we plant stuff. So I'm really using all of this time as I look at my resources, as I look at how I am resourced. What is my relationship to my resources? What do I need to shed, which gets us into this Scorpio piece? What is it time for me to let go of so I'm not carrying forward? And it's not even necessarily always let go of. What do I need to complete?
Yeah.
That's kind of the other question. I jokingly regularly say, hi, my name is Amiee and I'm a book addict. and I, we all have the addict archetype because we all have a place that we struggle where we want to disappear.
Yeah.
And books are my thing. I love books. At the start of the pandemic in 2020, when we went into shutdown, I had 350 unread books in my house.
Oh shit.
So when I say that I'm a book addict, it is because I'm like, ooh, this book, I have this book. And then it's going to sit on my shelf and I will read it at some point. But I'm kind of the same way with classes, with things that are going to expand my astrology knowledge, that are going to fill in my shamanic work, that are going to, make my body work piece more robust, that are going to move me into myth and storytelling and archetypal work more deeply. So I'm finishing all of the active learn at your own pace classes. I got 9.
Oh, damn, girl.
Classes that are work at your own pace. And I'm working through finishing those because that's the other way we can look at this Scorpio piece is what are you hauling around? It is time to wrap up. And if you don't want to wrap it up, can you set it down and say, oh, well, this thing isn't actually for me. I'm hauling around this thing. I'm doing this work. And this thing that I'm doing isn't for me.
Yep.
And it's okay that it's not for you. If it doesn't light you up, if it doesn't, my girlfriend and I have something, we call it a holy hell yes.
Yeah.
If it is not a full body holy hell yes, then it's a no.
Yeah. I so live by that too. Yeah.
It's really, really easy.
Yeah, it is.
It is either a yes. And if it is not a holy hell yes, everything else is a no.
Yeah.
Because my resources and my time is one of my resources I have absolute full control over. And it's one of my most precious resources.
Yeah.
And I'm only going to pour myself into the things that are a holy hell yes.
Yeah.
Be that professional endeavors, be that educational things, be that personal things, friendships, relationships. I want to spend time in my garden. I want to cuddle my cat. I want to do the things that are a yes. And that for me has been a real like when I'm in that losing my mind place.
Yes.
And the struggle.
Yeah.
Take a nap, cuddle the cat,
Uh-huh.
go for a walk in nature. Like that is always a big one. Like how
100%.
round back in. And it's snowy and cold here, so it's not like I can go out
I
and be
love
barefoot
snow.
because my toes would get all frosty. But all of those things matter so much. How would you describe a dark night of the soul for anybody who doesn't know what this thing is, the dark night of the soul?
Dark night of the soul for me is like, well, here, I'll just give you the symptoms. Here are my symptoms for me, right? Because this is where we get into the mind can't explain what's happening because what's happening is happening to your emotional, spiritual body, right? The mind is just a byproduct of the growth of what wants to grow in my heart and in my soul. And it's highlighting where I'm being called to. My heart and my soul is conflicting with what my mind is telling me is safe. So there's like this, oh God, double bind happening. And some of the symptoms of that for me are all of my tools that are my go-to tools when I get into that space of, oh God, oh God, oh God, stop working. Nothing I'm seeking outside of myself is helping. There's this desperate grasping for, I need to find the answer. 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 And I get desperate about it. Like I think we all do, where it's like, well, I'm going to seek the cards. I'm going to go find a medium. I'm going to ask my friends. I'm going to whatever. And then just in the same way you were talking about this is like, boom, the reason it isn't working is because you're being asked to go inward. The thing that's down here is calling your name. So trying to find the answer out here and from here, this is not the operating system you need right now, but it's the only one we know how to do. And it's like, no, drop, go in, feel your pain. And it doesn't mean beat yourself up and loop around there. It just means like there's an emotion that's trying to get out. People that bottle their shit, shove it down, put the cork on, shove it down, put the cork on. Bottle's only so big, people. So the shit is coming out, whether the bottle breaks and shatters and it's like a full-on meltdown and you end up in the hospital, or you can just say, you know what, I'm going to take the cork out for a hot minute and deal with emotion number one on my table. Right. And it's not about having to fix it or change it or escape it or do anything with it. It's just like, can you be with what is? And this is a huge, at least my remedy, even though it's still hard for me to sit in it, is the antidote to me for dark night of the soul. Is, can you be in this present moment and be with what is? And so that means like sitting there feeling it. Most people will go, yeah, well, I did that, but it hasn't left yet. And I'm like, because you just left the present moment. If you're doing it to wait for it to leave, you're not being present with what is, right? But it's like, can you just literally be with what is without a judgment? This is the hard part, without a judgment on what it has to do or how it has to look or when it has to be over. We're so used to qualifying everything through judgment and comparison. And so it's like, to truly be in a healing space, I have to be in non-judgmental space with myself, even where I'm judging me and I'm thinking it should be different. My life should be something else. I want it to be right. We hear the shit all the time. None of that is in the present moment. And the reason you're in pain is because you're either trying to escape a past moment from happening now, or you're in the future trying to get out of the present moment that's happening now based on the past influences that you had affecting you in an emotional, spiritual way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love the you said double bind, which is so spectacular. So I heard double bind and I was like, oh, that is so Saturnian. Because Saturn's about our restrictions.
Yeah.
And when I looked at the astrology this week, Pluto and Mercury are still in an orbital conjunction. The sun is in an orbital conjunction with Saturn, and Venus and Neptune are in orb. So we've got these like deep truths coming out with Pluto and Mercury. We have Venus and Neptune in this place of like fantasy love, and really getting clear when Neptune is in its highest. It's this beautiful androgynous energy that has a really shamanic, it stands with a foot in both worlds.
Yeah.
And so really loving our physical and really loving our spiritual. So we can be the bridge that connects those things. But this Saturn Sun piece is interesting when you said the double bind, because of course, if we have a double bind, it's a restriction.
Mm-hmm.
And Saturn is about our restrictions and the way we restrict ourselves.
Yes.
And he's been in Aquarius. He's been asking us to innovate before he moves into Pisces, where everything is going to become much more fluid for a couple of years. He does that in early March. And with he goes Cazimi, he goes into the center of the sun on the 16th.
Oh shit.
And they're going to be Cazimi and Aquarius. So there's going to be this day on the 16th, which is Thursday, where we have this opportunity for really, really deep clarity, like being able to really see our double binds, our restrictions, and keeping in mind, Saturn isn't the architect. Saturn is just the guy who builds it. He is the carpenter. And the quality of his work is so indicative of the quality of our work. How do we want our lives to feel? What structure do we want to hold us? Do we want it to be an open air pavilion structure? Do we, want a box with holes? Do we want something that is unique and speaks to who we are, which ties us all back into these resource pieces?
Yeah.
But there's a clarity here that is available on the 16th. Well, by that time, Mercury and Pluto are going to be barely in orb of a conjunction, but Venus and Neptune are going to be all cozied up and really asking us to bridge the physical and the unseen. And how do we build from that place?
Oh, I'm super.
How do we strip down our restrictions? How do we see the double binds so that we could give Saturn different blueprints? Which is going to allow, when he moves into Pisces on the 7th of March, 2023, this greater flow. The structure is going to have greater flow. It's going to need to have greater fluidity, because any structures that don't have greater flow, that don't have greater fluidity, that aren't willing to upgrade, they're going to have a really hard time.
Yes. That's what I feel like we're in the front of.
We're in the front. We're leading up to that. So that when we move into, what I am looking at as the new year, which starts in the spring, we can move in that new year with that different energy. So finish the things, set them down, walk away from your mind, say, yes, ego, I see you. I know we need to silicone those edges on the kitchen floor. And today is not the day, and I am not the one.
Yeah.
I have astrology stuff to do. I have things that I feel lit up by. And right now it is not siliconing the floor in the kitchen. No.
100%. I love that. There's so much juice in that. I'm excited for what is it? The 13th? No, today's the 13th, the 16th.
The 16th.
Oh my God. That sounds like an amazing. This is what I've been waiting for, is just to feel how these energies work together, where it's if I'm being ripped in two directions because the old part is being sort of ripped out of me, is how I view it. And I'm, have to trust, I'm literally having to leap of faith into, I can feel this thing that's ready to take care of me, but it hasn't shown up yet, is what I'm being asked to dive into. So it's to have this come in and inform that, and have that just bing, clarity part. I'm excited for that, because that's where, to me, it's the most volatile place in a lot of the work I do, is also the most paradoxical. And it's where point of creation, point of destruction interact, because it's literally the same energy. It's literally only the mind that is trying to separate that out or quantify it, qualify it, or whatever. But there's so much healing done when you realize both and is like, holy fuck. Oh my God. So like this, I'm very excited for this. And I've started to feel some of that too, with just how Spirit's been working with me on like some of my blocks
Mm-hmm.
and the way they've been pointing stuff out to me is the total trip. Like stuff is shifting in the way I'm even hearing a lot of that. And it's like, I don't even know, but it's just like, I don't know how to speak to that, but it's like, there's so much of what is happening and really getting what's happening in me in the moment that I'm in it
Mm-hmm.
affects everything that I'm involved in. Like I'm starting to see that, I guess you call it oneness consciousness, which is, and it's just like, but I haven't experienced it. Like I've heard about it, blah, 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 whatever, but it's weird to have an experience of, oh shit, this is happening here. So this is what I can speak about. Like, this is, I didn't get that. So it was like, I thought I was having to have all the answers and doing all this other shit. And it was like, no, what's happening for you right now?
Mm-hmm.
You think your clients might want to hear about that right now? You think you can? And I'm like, oh, no. But I was so stuck in the mind of like, but I have to have it right. And I have to look like I know what I'm doing and whatever. And it's like, no, you don't fucking have to know what you're doing. You should have to be a couple of steps ahead. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's like the part that's missing out of my life, and this might be true for other people who might be watching this, is me, is the unleashed part of me that just gets to show up without the restrictions of having to get it right, be perfect, get it right according to somebody else or what they believe is right, compare myself to other people and think my worth is based on that, or think my worth is based on the amount of money I draw in. It's just like none of this shit. I'm starting to really realize my value is who I am. My value can't be quantified. My value is not what I receive. My value is what I feel when I can connect to myself and be connected to energy. And we've been so conditioned to numb that shit out. And that's why I think we're all like freaking out right now, because as that comes back online, we're like, we don't know that. We've been told to compare ourselves and judge and be pretty and be perfect and look like this and do all of that. And I'm failing if I don't do that. So something that comes in that goes, oh, we love you just as you are, is like, what is this? I don't know. I don't trust it. Because we've been trained not to.
Yeah, and it's so spot on. And it just is like, oh, yeah, that. Because for me, I look at the losing our minds is the constantly chasing our tails.
Yeah.
It's the chasing what other people have. It's such an eighth house symptom. What does that person have? Why can't I have what that person has? But you're not that person. You're this person over here. And this, you get to construct your own life. And you get to have the opportunity to feel good, resourced by what you have. You don't need somebody else's resources. And you don't need to hoard all of the resources. Nobody needs to hoard the resources. We're back to the community and the belonging versus the hive. And
yes,
we can innovate. Like we have such endless innovative opportunities here. And I giggle about it all the time because I live with an adolescent and he is lovely. And he pushes, but children, they don't yet understand, and they don't have the limitations that we have. You will rarely hear my child at least say, well, that's just the way it is. That isn't programmed into him yet. He really has this very big mindset of, what did he ask the other day? He asked if somebody came and cut the earth in half, would the atmosphere reform? And of course, as I'm picturing this in my head, as he's describing this great big thing in the cosmos with a chainsaw cutting the planet in half, my human brain has a whole construct about it. I've seen a chainsaw work on things, and my Saturn says, oh, there are restrictions. If you put a chainsaw through something, it's gonna rip up the things, and then the atmosphere is gonna disappear. But he had this whole concept that if we split the earth in half into two halves, would the atmosphere just bubble up around each of those halves?
Mm.
Like, he doesn't have those Saturnian restrictions.
Yeah.
And he has so much more access to his Aquarian, innovative, well, why can't this be the case?
Yeah.
And there are times I'm like, how did you get to this place? Because my very Saturn, I have
Yeah.
first house Saturn, and it's like, well, those are not the rules.
I love this, and I love that you're talking about this, and I love that you brought your son in, because there's so much that it's like children are representing so much right now, and it's like there's so much of what I think we're going back to, but we get to be adults. But it's like, to me, this is the energy that's blasting the planet when you're talking about new energies, high side. It's why we're being asked to trust. They do. And you have access to all these other points of consciousness that give you other creative ideas for how things can be different without the construct of limitations and control that are trying to dumb you down. So it's like, I love that he's representative of, hey, mom, come play in this energy with me. Because it's like, and there's also, we seek that. Like, there's so much of us where it's like, I feel dead inside. I have no joy. I'm unfulfilled. I don't, when am I going to feel better? And we keep waiting for things to change. And it's like, well, when you're going to have to do something to create this change that like shakes it up. You can't do the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing and expecting a different result, right? You're going to have to. That's why this leap of faith is on offer. It's a fucking offer going, and we're all going to do it at some point. It's just, are you going to do it now? Are you going to leap? Because this whole year, I know that there is like offer after offer after offer on the table for leap, 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 leap. And it's going to get more painful when you're not leaping for your yes, even though it's going to challenge, it will directly challenge your safety and control resources that have been on the table that you thought kept you safe. So basically we're in the safety dance right now. We're in the safety challenge. Safety dance. We're in that safety dance right now where it's like we're being asked to trust a different version of safe that we haven't seen yet. And can you trust the energy of who you are, the soul of who you are, the spirit of who you are, and that higher calling to step out of your physicality so that you can become something bigger, new, and better in the physical world and have more access to your soul.
Yeah, which is just, it's so Saturn shifting into Pisces. We're like in the master's degree level of Saturn working through Aquarius, suggesting that we build innovative structures, suggesting that those of us that have first house Saturns that can get really in our narrow little rules, listen to those little harbingers, my 12-year-old, and so many of these children who, we've global prophecies, the rainbow people are coming, the rainbow people, the rainbow people, the rainbow people. And if we open our eyes, they're already here.
Yeah.
They've been seeded amongst us, and those seeds are becoming more and more, the rainbow seeds are heavier than just the rest of the seeds. Like the seed mix is getting blended up. We started in the 1960s when Pluto and Uranus conjuncted. And I'm going back to the 1960s because these were the very, very first incoming waves of the age of Aquarius. And the age of Aquarius isn't going to start until 2160. So everybody just simmer down. We're those of us on planet, and those of us who have been on the planet working this energy since the 60s, they were the first seeds of the rainbow people. As we move closer and closer and closer towards the death of the age of Pisces and the birth of the age of Aquarius, which that paradoxal energy where it's just a shift, it's an energetic shift. And part of it is, I grew up on a ranch. You have seed blends. We
Mhm.
started out with a very low amount of rainbow seeds.
Mhm.
And as we continue to march year by year towards the official birth, like right now, we're just in labor.
Yeah, it feels
Labor
like that.
takes time, like
Mhm.
about 200 years, give or take. Um, and as we go through this labor, the seed blend is changing. There are more and more rainbow seeds landing on the planet and taking root.
Mhm.
As we continue to walk toward this Aquarian birth in 2160, those rainbow seeds are going to become more and more and more. And the seeds and the plants and the, since we're going with a seed analogy, the flowers, the human flowers that
Mhm.
cannot make the upgrade in the energy to
Yeah.
take those leaves that you're talking about, those flowers they're not going to continue on.
Yeah.
Those threads aren't going to be able to continue because the energy
Yeah.
is going to allow where they're standing to continue to be resourced.
Yeah.
It is the leap that has us allowing ourselves to be resourced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because standing in the same spot and not leaping is actually what is going to cost us the things that we view as our resources.
Yes. Well, it may cost you more than that. Yeah, it's going to cost you, at least it's just the energy I get, is like it's going to trap your ass.
Mhm.
You're going to feel very trapped between realizing what you control isn't what you are giving your power to, and what is controlling you is not what you thought it was. And when it actually shows you its face and it no longer resonates with you, you're not going to have anywhere to jump, and you're going to feel trapped and not know where to go. I mean, this is like, I don't know when that happens, but it's just like, it's a scary thing. It's like you're being asked to choose yourself. It's like an ultimatum, it hasn't gotten to the ultimatum point yet, but that's where we're headed. It's just increasing until it's like, is it everyone else or you? Are you going to choose everyone else or you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you've got to choose you at that point, because if you are not going to stand up and choose yourself, nobody can survive that. You're going to live your whole life as like imprisoned, which is where we are now. I mean, it's just going to be so much worse. And I hate that shit. There's so many people that don't, I mean, all the people I help, women who don't speak up, but they're going to try to get it right at the workplace. We're going to, I've got my perfectionism and I've got my control and I know my rules and I have to get there and and then the spark of like, something isn't aligned with me because my soul just awakened and went, this is all bullshit. Now what? And it's like, oh God, now I'm in overwhelm. I shut down. I'm numbed out. I'm sitting on the couch, depressed out of my life, living like a dead person. When does the joy come back? Well, when are you going to go looking for it? Because it's underneath all this fucking shit. And that little person you buried at the bottom, you've got to go back and get her ass and express your joy and risk this shit. But it's like, you can't be afraid of punishment forever, especially if it isn't happening now. There's so many people in that people pleasing, like, well, if I say this, then he's going to hit me. If I say this, they're going to, and it's like, when you're in an abusive situation, I get that you don't know that, but if you're out of the abusive situation, and you're still living that way with everyone around you, you're stuck in a reality that isn't happening right now. And your survival mechanism is not letting you out. You need to get out of that. It's time to do that work.
And I think it's really, really important to say that if you're in an abusive relationship, like, get help,
Yeah,
get support, and that choosing yourself is not selfish.
no,
We have such a collective, well-trained dialogue
yeah,
around how choosing yourself
yeah,
is somehow selfish. And when we choose ourselves, when we choose to fill our own cups, when we choose to hold our boundaries, when we choose to know and get curious and dive into ourselves, that is when we are most supportive and nourishing and a part
yeah,
of the collective, because we're actually bringing ourselves rather than this stifled, shut
yep,
down zombified version, and I got a whole zombie story, but I don't know that we're going to go into that because we're at the top of the hour and we should probably watch our time.
You do what you got to do. It's we started late too because energy didn't like us this morning, or technology didn't like us this morning.
We had to do some new things.
So it's up to you.
There. Maybe I'll just go down the zombie path for just a moment.
I'm interested to hear it. I'm like, I got nothing going on. Tell me about the zombies.
So I helped out with the passing of someone in May of 2020. And I saw this body less than 48 hours after it was officially declared deceased. And the chakra system was still warm. Its Christian belief system had come in and sealed up the heart, the throat, and the third eye. But the whole rest of that chakra system was still open. And so shamaned that up, opened up the chakra system, called everything back, had a nice talk with that soul. It decided it really needed to hang out and see things a little bit more. And as I was driving back, I realized the Christian belief system has been severing energy bodies for almost 2,000 years now, where it takes from the heart, the throat, and the third eye, it leaves the rest of the energy body encased in a physical body, which in more recent times has not been dust to dust. It doesn't get put into the ground and allowed to decompose. It doesn't return to the earth, thereby releasing that energy body, releasing the spiritual system.
Yeah.
Instead, we preserve those bodies with chemicals and then in an airtight box, which we put in another airtight box before we put in the ground. So these energy systems, these spiritual pieces are trapped in these physical bodies because they're not able to decompose. And so it was a whole big like lightning moment that these soul fragments that are actually removed are severed from the rest. And then they start to move through the system again. So why do we have so many zombies, people that are not fully here, walking around? It's because they're these three pieces of a full energy system that have been pulled out of a body, that have gone back to source per my belief system, and then chosen to come back, but it's not got its full self there. So how many of those systems are back in bodies, in human bodies, looking for the rest of themselves?
That's
and
interesting.
I think, there's, when you work archetypally, the vampire is as much of an archetype as the zombie is.
Yeah.
The zombie is this, soulless, just like the vampire. Zombie is, and vampires are both soulless. But what if they're not soulless? What if we have mistakenly felt them and they're not soulless, but they're soul fragments that have shown up and that have committed to show up to try to find the things, to try to find their awakening points, to call themselves back in.
Interesting.
To wake up. And, from a vampire standpoint, when you're looking at that archetypally, that's dealing with somebody who lives off of the energy of everybody around them.
Yeah.
So that's my zombie rant.
That's interesting. That's very fascinating. That's really, wow. That's so fascinating.
My zombie rant from dealing with so much death in 2020.
You're so I love it. I love it. I love it. It's just all so fascinating to me. Like there's so many different ways to look at things, and to be able to see, I just love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I love that it like informs us in other ways about how to come back to ourselves. Like, I just find that so beautiful.
It's tasty.
Not for the zombie, of course.
The zombie. I think that they're here trying to do the thing the best they know how. And I think it's scary.
Mhm.
It's a scary thing to be here and find out that you may have been wrong about all of the things.
Oh yeah.
It's a scary thing
Yeah.
to be here and find out that the things that you have done have caused harm.
Yeah.
Because I do want to have faith in humans, not just humanity.
Yeah.
And I do, that feels really important to me, to believe that these zombies can recognize, oh, yeah, I can call my pieces back. I can find my way to wholeness. And it's not going to be an easy task. It's going to be work, which is not always great. I mean, I know there is a lot of desire for ease in the world.
I can't do that one. I mean, yes, you get to have ease and whatever, but it's like, the pipe will flow easily with water once the plug has been cleared, and getting the plug out is a fucking bitch. So like, this is just welcome. It doesn't have to be a bitch. It's just going to feel painful, but for a little while, where it's like you're processing this stuff. But the thing that pisses me off, excuse me, is that somehow we've demonized emotion and we're all fucking afraid of it. I'm like, it's what makes you human, people. Without it, you are a fucking zombie. You need your fucking heart back. And what lights that up more than vulnerability, courage, feelings, connecting with people while you're feeling those feelings? This all got, to me, that's what we've all been cut off from. That's how I see it, is our emotional body and our emotions and our ability to feel and have our emotional intelligence be the thing that fucking guides some of us, because that's what got cut out of me. So that's what makes me crazy too, is that when we demonize like women for like, she's being emotional, she's overreacting, she's whatever. It's like, do you know how much power is in her fucking intuition? Do you know how much power is in here that makes no logical sense? That knows shit, that can do a lot of shit, that can do shit in the unseen realms that nobody can see. There's a fuck ton of power in that. And if you want back to it, you've got to start by feeling yourself. And letting that all go. So I just, yes to that.
So good. And so true. I'm just going to check to see. Okay. We don't have any questions. That's fine. We always want to encourage you to interact with us.
Yeah, we like it.
Becca, do you have anything coming up if people want to work with you or connect with you?
Yes, I do actually. I have a Stop Self-Judgment mini course happening on the 20th, the 22nd, and the 24th, which is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday of this month. It's like $60. It's an hour each day from like 10:30 to 11:30. And I really wanted to just give people like mini transformations that were like chunkable and doable, that wouldn't, it's not like a deep dive into anything super massive, but you're going to hit some deep shit and be able to integrate on the days off. So if people are interested in that, you can go to, well, you can't go to my website. You can go to my Instagram at Becca Honeycutt and click on it there. Otherwise, it's a really long one. You can pop the link below this, but it's because that might be easier than
I'll pop the link
out loud. So pop,
are you going to
the link below?
Are you going to be recording things?
Oh yeah,
live. Okay.
I'm going to record it. I'm hoping people show up live, because I'd love to be able to do some real good group work and breakouts and stuff that's really going to get the transformation. But yeah, I want to record it and then have it be available for 30 days after.
Fabulous. Okay, perfect. And for anybody who wants a deep dive, I have 3 spots left at my upcoming 4-day women's retreat. Early bird pricing ends tomorrow, but there will still be those 3 spots until those 3 spots are not there anymore. That is happening April 20th through the 23rd. It is the astrological New Year's celebration, and we will be treasure mapping and fire walking, weather permitted. weather permitting, we have an Ayurvedic practitioner who is going to be preparing all of our meals and teaching us Ayurveda magic. And so I will drop the link for that below also. And thanks for joining us. You can drop questions, comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share us with your friends.